Alrighty, guys. If you can take your seats, we're going to get started. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Alrighty. How's everybody doing? Hopefully well. Love it. Thank you. Love that. Alrighty. Okay, let's get started. Good evening and welcome to the 6th meeting of the 2021-2022 Undergraduate Student Senate at Virginia Tech. It is April 12th, 2022, and the time is 6:37. We're going to go over the agenda. So we have the call to order, the adoption of the agenda, the adoption of previous minutes, a guest speaker. We have Mike Dunn for transportation and planning engineer. Old business, new business. We're only going to do budget reports. We don't have any senator inductions. Cabinet reports, director reports, governance reports, advisor reports, public forum, and adjournment. Alrighty. Let's see. Is there a motion on the floor at this time to approve the agenda? Any seconds? Nice. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Alrighty. Moving on to the previous minutes. They were sent out ahead of time, so they would not be read aloud. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we're going to move forward. So now we have our guest speaker, Mike Dunn. Give it up for him. Yeah, just take it away. Do what you got to do, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. If you don't mind doing it, that'd be great. Thanks for having me. Last time I was in this room, my son was going through freshman orientation about 5 or 6 years ago. So it's like, wow, I feel old all of a sudden. But great time of year, right? The weather's getting nice. The semester's starting to wrap up. Who's looking forward to summer? Me too. Me too. It's been a great year, but I am definitely looking forward to a break. So, speaking of looking forward to, great segue into master planning. So with the master plan for the campus, we look ahead 30 years. And just like any weather forecast, it's not perfect. We're just trying to figure out what might be able to be possible 30 years down the road. So master plan is a guiding document. If you've done any work with your hands and you have instructions, put furniture together, those are concrete, like, construction documents. This is not. This is looking ahead, taking a whole lot of things into consideration and trying to figure out, if the campus grows, what can we do? How can we grow? Where can we put buildings? So you'll see a lot of footprints and things like that. Next slide. So the way that we did this, you saw that it was finished up in 2018, 2019. It's an iterative process. We had a consultant come on board, Sasaki, and they are an internationally known consultant doing this at many universities. They studied the campus for several months. And luckily, the lead consultant, Greg Havens, he was here back in the 90s, and they did a master plan then. And one of the ideas that came out of that master plan was the Torgerson Arch. So when I was here, there was no archway. It was wide open on Alumni Mall. So Sasaki has a track record of some really good ideas, so that was something impressive. So it's an iterative process. They study it. They listen to the input from lots of folks. They listen to students, to faculty, to stakeholders throughout the area. And then they give us some ideas, get our feedback again, go back and take that feedback and tweak things a little bit until we go through the process and end up with a final master plan. So here you can see some of the things we do. Discovery and analysis, they take our GIS mapping, old maps of buildings, things like that, and they analyze that. Then we have community engagement, meetings like this, public meetings, lots and lots of meetings. We had over 200 meetings in this project. And then you see the concepts, and the concepts come out. And so tonight, I'm going to show you some of the concepts that we came up with. Go ahead. So that slide got big somehow. Woo. So that's okay. There's a lot more to the slide, but that's okay. You can see the groups that we had and involvement, and along the bottom we had a lot of stakeholder groups. The idea is we had a lot of input, a lot of interaction, so that's why it took roughly 2 years to do it. All right, next slide. So the master plan is just part of many other plans. We called it a volume. This is one volume of many volumes of work that we looked at. And keep me on track if you can. Tell me when it's like 5 minutes to go. So here you can see the existing campus. You got the drill field at the top. The green area is either Virginia Tech property. The green with slashes through it is the foundation, Virginia Tech Foundation. So we're going to zoom in mainly on the upper part, what we call the Northern Academic District. And I want you to think about it. This is the campus today. The last 20 years, more or less since several of you were born, how much do you think the campus has grown and those building footprints? I just want to, you guys throw out a number. So when I was here in 93, 94, a lot has changed. But how much do you think it's increased in gross square feet? Give me some numbers. I know, it's like what?
Like 2 million?
Percentage-wise.
Oh, percentage-wise.
Yeah.
Like percentage-wise in relation to where we are today, or growing in relation to where it was?
Either one.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say I was born in '99. So
Okay.
I'm gonna say since '99 it's probably grown 30%.
Okay. Yeah.
I was born in '03,
Okay.
and so from then to then, or whatever, yeah, I would say probably like 60 to 75.
Wow. So more than double. Wow. Okay. Okay. So when we started doing this, that's one of the things we looked at was like all these footprints that we could do because we're looking 30 years out, and so we wanted to say, okay, well, let's look 20, 30 years back and see how much we've grown. So go ahead to the next slide. We're going to tilt. We're going to look at the area, and what you're going to see in white is the existing buildings, but in orange, you're going to see what happened in the last 20 years. So there's a timeline on the bottom, but from here, from 20 years ago to today, those are the new buildings. So 38%. So you guys, pretty close, 40%, almost double. That's one way to look at it. And so we thought about what's it going to look like a few years out ahead. So next slide. So that, I think, is 10 years out. So we're seeing some growth there. Those the maroon buildings are possible growth areas. And you can see if you look at the Northern Academic District around the Perry Street Garage, those buildings have already started construction.
Yes.
Have you noticed any construction on them? So we're taking this plan and we're putting it into action.
Wait, there's construction on campus.
Somewhere. I've heard about it. I haven't seen it. So go one more slide. And that's what 30 years ahead is what it could look like. Again, these are just kind of a forecast of what it could be if we grow, where we could grow, how we could grow. Yeah.
Are those buildings all academic, or are we looking at residential buildings?
A little bit of everything. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll dive into some of the districts and look at them in detail. All right, next slide. So some of the drivers, next slide. Some of the things we're wanting to see at Virginia Tech, some of the things that Virginia Tech we want to continue with. You got the VT experience, the traditions, the drill field, the Hokie Stone, things like that. And then you've got a sense of place, and that's something as well that's similar. It takes the architecture, and you have a feeling for what it's like on campus as opposed to out in town. There's a little different feel to it. Connections, we now have connections to Northern Virginia, to Roanoke, growing, access for all, accessibility is a big deal, and sustainability. All right, next slide. And so this is what I'm talking about, the sense of place. If you're on campus, it's just got a special feel to it. I really enjoy that, and we think that's important, and we want to continue that. All right, campus vision. Let's see what we got next. So some of the things we want to see as we move forward. Central spine is more or less, if you take the middle of the campus, there's a greenway, a natural greenway to it that we want to continue. Agriculture, we started off as a land-grant university, we still are, so we want to keep our ag. Campus districts, kind of divide things up so it's easier to talk about certain areas and make sure each area can stand on its own to some extent. The town, our connection to the town is very important. And the last last two are really important. These are some of the big ideas that came out of the project, or out of the master plans, the infinite loop and the green lanes, and we'll get into that a little bit more. All right? So here's the infinite loop. So everybody knows the drill field, one-way loop around it. Anybody gone the long way on the drill field? Anybody? No, of course not. Bike, scooter. I saw one when I came here today. Well, the drill field is a great way to get around. It's got a lot of congestion when folks are crossing it. So we want to create another loop, about a 2-mile loop, a little bit farther out from the drill field that really helps get around from district to district. If you can think of the districts, there's kind of like 6 or 7 of them, each kind of have a pie slice going outward. And we want to be able to get around from district to district a whole lot quicker. So it's ADA accessible, all the slopes are less than 5%, and it's meant for pedestrians, bikes, things like that.
How would that affect the wildlife?
The wildlife in the duck pond. So what we want to do is take Duck Pond Drive and move it up out of the floodplain, take the infinite loop. So it's not going, so the one on the top is the end, that little pond is the end, Virginia Tech end pond. And then the other one, it kind of follows where Duck Pond Drive is. So Duck Pond Drive is, well, that's not the word. Is up above the end. So I think we've got a little more detail on that. All right. So let's see, next slide. Green lanes. So one of the things we noticed is, yeah.
And it's like, is that space supposed to be walkable or for more like transit and maybe a bus could take that path?
Walkable. Walkable. That is total ADA access for all the whole loop. Possible little autonomous shuttles in the future. Bikes, scooters, things like that.
How many miles is the whole loop?
Is the loop?
Yeah.
About 2 miles. Yeah. Yeah, this is a really cool idea. And one of the ideas is to decrease the single occupancy vehicles in the core campus. This really helps do that. All right, next slide. So the green lanes, the other thing we noticed when we got into the master plan is, you know, our campus is about 150 years old. 150 years ago, when they were building the campus, they weren't worried too much about slope and accessibility. So we've got a lot of buildings that were built many years ago that don't quite meet the accessibility that we want them to. So we want to create all these links that start to tie things together in an accessible way and make them the main pathway, so you don't have kind of these side pathways. So this was a really good idea that came out of the project as well. All right. Frameworks, we'll just go through this real quick. These are, you know, 5 of the things that we want to consider. We're looking at things. We'll look at the mobility. Transportation is one of the main things I deal with. So looking at the mobility, we've got lots of roads that we want to keep up and going. One of the main roads is new one that we're looking at is the Western Perimeter Road. So that's to help take a lot of the traffic, again, out of the core campus. A lot of our parking that was in and around Perry Street moved out to Smithfield, out to Duck Pond. So the Western Perimeter Road would let you get out there a whole lot easier. So you don't have to come down West Campus Drive. So another thing I want to point out, one of the projects that's under construction now, the MMTF. Anybody know what that stands for? Yeah. Of course. Pablo's heard this a few times at the BOV. So up at the top on each side of the Perry Street Garage, you see those little blue loops? Those are transit hubs. I'm trying to decrease the transit on the drill field because when everybody's walking to class, the buses really can't go. It's not very efficient. So we want to move that up away from the core campus, get buses in on the sides, you get out, and in between the 2 loops from the Perry Street Drive south, it's going to be all plaza. It's going to be all walkways, so you don't have the traffic conflicts. So lots of good mobility ideas. All right. Let's go again. One more time. So let's go back real quick. So one of the things I want to dive into, up around the Perry Street Garage, Burris, that area, we call the Northern Academic District. So we're going to zoom in on that, picture what it looks like today, and then the next slide is going to be what it could be according to the master plan. So there you can see the Perry Street Garage. You've got several of the buildings around it already under construction. USLB will breaking ground soon. So, and then several other footprints. You've got number 11 over there, Holden Hall, was just renovated. Number 12 is Randolph. So Randolph is expected to be totally renovated, more or less demolished and brought back up in a whole new way. But you can see roughly half of the buildings there are already under construction. Yeah.
So when you say like new buildings, do you mean like redoing some of the old buildings? Like, do redoing some of the old buildings count as a new building? Or
Not necessarily. Yeah, there's a gray area. There's some of them are major renovations, like Holden is a major renovation. And then you've got totally demolish and rebuild is like Randolph. We totally brought down. Yep.
So I know nothing's been like really decided, but did this firm have any ideas for what might be done in the stadium was to kind of make it better for students? I'm in tourist resources, and it's very up in the air. I was just curious.
No, we did not dive into that.
Okay.
We went into a lot of other areas, but that's something we didn't get into. We do have a campus arborist now who started probably within the last year. Very active, very knowledgeable. So he's very much in touch with, I would say, every tree on campus, but especially the stadium woods.
Yeah, I've been on some projects.
Okay, good, good. Yeah.
If it wasn't considered for this, are you guys considering renovating or demolishing and rebuilding any of the residential homes? Because a lot of them are falling apart.
Yeah. So there's a whole lot going on there. I keep hearing slusher. Yeah. Slusher is one of them that we've definitely looked at.
Coach Hall should be another one.
Which one?
Coach.
I was there. I was there in
I'm there freshman year.
88. Yeah. No AC. Yeah. My son was there a few years ago, and it needs air. It's just, yeah. So in addition to renovating some buildings like Slusher, I know that one's definitely on the list. We recently had another master plan to look at Oak Lane. We're doing a lot with out of Oak Lane. That's called the Student Life Village. So that's another master plan that we've got, another idea that we've got. All right. So what's going on here? We got a lot going on. So I mentioned Infinite Loop. I mentioned Green Links. The third thing is that came out of this that was kind of a great idea, I think, was where is the center of activity on an average weekday at noon? Like throw some location out. Turner, close, yeah. The general area. So, and where's the student center? Squires. One's here, right? So the idea was, why not have the student center where the center of the students are, right? Sounds crazy. So B, right there, anybody know what building that is? Fogel. All right, so Fogel is kind of home of architecture, urban studies. That department, that college is so large, they've outgrown it. So they're in like, I don't know, many places, probably 12 different places. So one of the ideas is, why don't we build them a new building somewhere right near this area, and then turn Fogel and Burchard Plaza into the student center, so that's where everybody is on the average day. Easy to get to. All your activities are here or there. And we call that Tech Square. That was one of the names we used for that.
are you talking on Square or Legal?
Probably Regis Square. Yeah. I think we've got. Yeah. The last major renovation was when I was here. I didn't get to see Squires at all while I was here. My old time here, it was under renovation that whole time. So.
Definitely have some leaks.
Yeah. Yeah. Do it loud.
Where is location of the student center, like on the map here?
At Fogel and Burchard.
B.
Fogel.
B.
I'll show you. I'll show you. So we're gonna dive into, you know where Burchard Plaza is? Has anybody been at Burchard? So what, it was under renovation when I was here too. Awesome area, really cool feel to it, wide open, really cool. All right, let's go. All right, so something's going on with our aspect ratio. Burchard's not quite that flat, but you're standing with Burris behind you, looking through the Burchard Plaza at Kogel, that's what it looks like today. And the grab. So what it could look like. Oh, it's a rendering. Yeah, I know. It's a rendering. It looks great. So one of the things about the facade of Kogel is you can take those panels, those big concrete panels off. This has got a lot of glass. Looks good. It's probably a lot to do to get from what we were looking at to there. This is the idea. It's just much more active space.
So like, this is gonna be a student center,
That's the idea.
and then my next question is, like, the little panels, like,
Pyramids?
yeah, they're like closed openings to get in like sunlight.
Yeah.
Are there plants under them?
Are there plants
Is it
under
like
the
a
panel?
Oh, is it? It's all.
Yeah, go down in there sometime. That's the architecture studio.
How will this plan affect tuition?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer to that. This plan and tuition, they're not really linked together. Again, this is what we could do. This is what we could do. Yeah.
Why are you guys getting rid of the pyramid and just putting flat glass?
To open it up, just to have it more open, more accessible, see across there. What's that?
I like climbing the pyramid.
I'm sure you hadn't done that, right?
I have
I
never.
know. See, okay, good.
But is there like a plan of still making the pyramids? Just because it's like so unique. Yeah. It's something that we got from the Cinco Blue hair.
It is. So, the idea of structural glass where the pyramid were, so you still have a light below that you can walk over.
I just feel like when you walk over, you get like, you know what I mean?
What do you do when you're climbing on it?
But I was just
All right, so we're getting short on time. Let's keep going. So, don't look at the board. Imagine you're on the Perry Street Garage looking towards Kogel, right? You're on the Perry Street Garage looking towards Kogel. That's kind of what it looks like. And then the next slide. This is what it could look like. Again, a lot of glass. And what you see down here at the bottom is that infinite loop. So we want to do something a little bit different on the infinite loop texture, so you can tell it's an infinite loop. So then we've got these are green links, ADA accessible pathways on the Kogel lawn, and then just kind of lots of open space. All right, next slide. So now we're spinning around to the CID. So the drill field is here. You got CID, you got Newman Library and Alumni Mall. And so you can see a lot of buildings there that could be. Again, Squires, demolished. Number 3 is a possible new building, to architecture. And we've got several other buildings there. The GLC is in the floodplain for Struvel's Creek. It's flooded several times. It continues to flood. So the idea is we create new GLC housing, graduate life student housing somewhere else. And then we open this back up so we don't have that flooding problem. You can see CID is already there. We're kind of short on time. So let's go back one. So that was Squires. If you're standing at College Avenue in Odie and you're looking to Squires, all right, next slide. That's kind of what you would see. And then what it could be, you probably didn't realize it, but that's Pearson Hall in the distance. So if you take Squires away and you look up there, you can create an accessible pathway up to along that mall from Odie Street, and you can open it up.
So that would be, you guys would flatten the terrain, because right now it's like.
Yeah, it's a long ways from Odie all the way to Alumni Mall. So you could do a 5 or 6 slope the whole way. Yeah.
The whole way would be a flash.
Roughly.
Are there any plans to put in a new like gym facility?
price goes back too high, you gotta think of something you can do, and you take some of that out of this, or see if you can budget. Price.
So Mark kind of responding at the end, so everyone has to ask questions and price and
We have time for one more question.
Yeah, you guys take over. We got maybe 2 or 3 slides
If
left.
you do have more questions, I will put his email in the minutes, and you can message him, or you can message me, and I can send them to him. Does that work?
Yep, let's go one more slide. Yeah, other studies, so we studied a lot of other stuff. And one more. So I mentioned the outcomes, infinite loop, green links, in the commons, North Academic Commons, Coastal, Burchard. And that should be, there's the overall plan. You can see the infinite loop is kind of that orange loop. And the green links are kind of highlighted in green. I think that is it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That was just beautiful. You got all the bright colors, and you really just, you know how to grab people's attention.
Sasaki, I tell you what, consultants, once you get out in the world and you're working, a really good consultant can sell almost anything. Now, I'm saying that they are good not just because of their graphics, but they take all this information and like just come up with great ideas. They do it for every college you can think of.
Love it. Well, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your night. Woo!
I don't think my thing's gonna work.
Do you want to?
Oh, actually. Wait.
Paulo? If you want to too, we can send out stuff from the Student Village Center too, which is the Oak one, the Student Village Life, whatever. That's what they're doing to Oak, or what they're trying to do. That one's really cool too to look at that. But yeah, we can definitely put that out there for you guys. All right. All right, Ariana, thank you so much. What? All right, we're gonna move on. We don't have any old business, but we do have some new business. Sarah is gonna go over her budget review. So give it up for Sarah.
Yay. Okay, so this is the first reading of the budget, so the next meeting we'll actually be voting on it. So pay attention, because this affects you guys. Oh my gosh, I think I messed something up. I don't know. Oh, I'm gonna hold it. Oh. Okay, so the big question, why are we here? Why are you sitting in the seats that you're sitting in? Why am I standing up here talking to you about something that's not fun? This is not the extrinsic question of life. Like, there's nothing about any of this. We are here because, shout out to the bylaws. So, in the bylaws, it says that I, the Vice President of Finance, need to analyze, create, and present a budget to you guys. And this obviously is going to consist of needed expenses for the upcoming year. So we need to present this before the year comes in, the fall. So we're going to keep going. We'll come back to this in a second. So what is the purpose of this budget? It's supposed to be flexible. We're a growing organization. We're going into our second year, but our first full year. So we need to actually have it be overestimated so that we can benefit students and you senators and push money into programs that actually affect change, reach senators, figure out senators and students, and figure out what works and really what doesn't, and then clip that. So we just really need to be very adaptable. So another good question you might be asking yourselves, well, Sarah, I don't know anything about the budget. I don't know where we get our money from. Good question. I'm so glad you thought of that. So our money comes from 2 different places. It comes from Student Budget Board, which I'm going to talk about, don't worry, and Hokie Effect, which is a program that we have. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to just raise your hand. I'm here to help y'all understand stuff. Stewardship. So this is the fund makeup for our current budget, and I wanted to illustrate how these 2 funds actually impact our funding, like our overall budget for this year. So SBB, Student Budget Board funds, they make out about 7%, and then the rest is Hokie effect. So shout out David. He is the assistant director. Meredith couldn't be here, but it's okay. Woo! He gives us money through his work. So what is Student Budget Board? This is super important. So Student Budget Board is actually a standing committee that is charged with giving funding to students with the student activities fee. I know that's a huge buzzing topic. Where does the student activities fee, like money, come from? It comes to us, students, and it's doled out to students. So this year, they actually are only funding undergraduate student organizations. Another organization does the grad part. But SBB is turning into my committee, USS Appropriations. So we are actually going to be giving out the money as of this year. We already have started. So, woo, great stuff. Sorry, guys. I'm just having too much fun up here. So, oh, man, I can't control myself. So they actually fund the UCSOs, and they do that through annual budgeting, which is happening this entire spring. So like in the beginning of, like when we stepped foot on campus, I had to submit a request for funding, which was to the tune of $22,000 to Student Budget Board, and then they review it, and then in July they tell us if we have that money or if we don't. So this money is not guaranteed. I want to repeat, it is not guaranteed. That's important. So what is Hokie Effect, and how do we get their money? So Hokie Effect is housed internally in USS. It's a program. David is the assistant director, Meredith is the director, and what they do is they design the basketball and the football shirts. You can see here the maroon effect and the orange effect from our football games. If you remember, we do like a maroon out and an orange out. Great work. And then for the basketball games, we do a maroon out and then a black out for the women's and the men's basketball games. So this amount of money that we get is all dependent on the shirts that are sold. So this is extremely important because if we don't sell enough shirts, we don't get enough money to put on the programs that we want to put on for USS. So in the future, we want more buy-in from USS. We want you guys to go and tell your constituents, go buy the shirts. They're awesome. Like, they're really, really awesome. Like, look at them. So, like, we need more of that know-how. Like, you guys can explain it. And these shirts don't just go towards USS. They go towards the Student Emergency Fund, which is given out by the Dean of Students. So if there's a student ever in need of money, they can ask for funding and get funding. So that can go towards things like rent, all that sort of good stuff. Like, if they have to choose between food and rent because, like, their refund check didn't come in, they can ask for funding from the Student Emergency Fund or any other fund that they choose to designate money towards. But that's an awesome, like, thing that we're doing. The other thing that it gives money to is the athletics initiative. So those are things like scholarships, etc., all that cool stuff, because we love to support our student athletes. So another cool thing about Hokie Effect, if we go back to this slide, woohoo, the bylaws, in this part right here, section 1, major projects fund, when we accumulate more money than like $65,000 in generated revenue, so like after expenses are taken out of our profits, that sort of stuff, we actually have to give 7% of our money to a fund, which we will then, all of us as USS, put towards a project to help students. So this money will go to students directly. So to use the water fountain example, if we all decided, okay, we're gonna have water fountain stations every 5 feet, we could fund that. So like we would have direct impact on campus. So this is extremely important. I want to stress that. Where was I? Yeah, so that pretty much covers that for the most part. Oh, one thing else to say about Hokie Effect that's really cool is we don't just do it ourselves. We partner with Advancement and Athletics. So we get a lot of help, but with that, we get to teach students a lot of cool things. So if you're ever interested and this seems like fun, contact us. We'll tell you what to do. So where is our money going? So this is the current breakdown of where we've kind of accumulated funding and put things aside, but those 22,000, that'll be 18% of our overall budget, and then the remaining 81% will be our Hokie Effect funds, or what I like to call generated. So what did we ask for from Student Budget Board? We asked for $22,000. That's a lot of money. So we asked for rentals for various events, like event services stuff, so like tables, chairs, the whole kit and caboodle. We asked for USS meeting expenses so that we can have meetings. We asked for USS election stuff, so making it a more fair and equitable playing field for cabinet candidates, voting softwares and things like that to get people to actually come out and vote, promoting the actual election, debate logistics, all that. A cool thing that we do, and we've always been doing this for as long as I've been in student government, is we fund the federal, state, and local polling booths. So if there's like the presidential election, we fund that. So we fund those polling booths that are in Squires. Two other cool things that we do is Hokie Day and ACC Advocacy Day. We take a bunch of kids from campus and we take them to Richmond or wherever ACC Advocacy Day was, and I think it was Washington, D.C. before. So we take them there, we cover the expenses of that, which is a super awesome thing to just advocate for higher education. We're gonna go on 2 conferences, insurance, office supplies, and then name tags and polos for cabinet because they only fund for cabinet. What are the other things that we're actually going to go through? So the remaining, basically $100,000 is going towards these specific line items, totals. And you can probably glean from this, I organized it based off of committee. So it makes your lives a lot easier. Except there are some that aren't on there. So cabinet obviously is not committee, conferences is not a committee, fixed office expenses. We're only missing 1 committee on there, but that's why we're trying to be flexible with the budget. So this is really the huge key breakaway or takeaway from this is how we broke down our funds. So I told you that we have $98,000 or $100,000 allocated for our budget. But something cool that we've gotten into doing, kind of like a business thing, is in the past, we used to front the money for Hokie Effect shirts, $200,000 for Hokie Effect shirts. We would pay for the money, we'd pay the money, we'd buy the shirts and put them in the bookstore. So we would be liable for that, but we aren't doing that anymore. We stopped doing that this year, which is why we have such an exuberant amount of money, $270,000 currently in our generated funds, which is our Hokie Effect funds. And this is I want to stress this, it's never going to be this high. Our budget specifically is never going to be this high. I purposely overestimated the budget so that we can kind of really have some wiggle room, figure out what we want to do, what events we want to put on, really kind of find our niche on campus and what we want to do to help students and how we want to make students' lives better. But we have this remaining balance of $170,000. And that's where, when I talked about that major events fund, or the major projects fund, that's what I mean. That money is going to go towards that so we can figure out a project or something to do to enact change to help students. We just have to figure out what we want to do with that, but that's a later conversation. So if you guys have any ideas on that sort of stuff, you can talk to me about it, contact me, but it'll be a later conversation. I just wanted to bring it up on your radar so you know. And basically for this year, to stress it even further about the budget, is we want to figure out how, a good, consistent budget number for us where we can run things and be okay, if that number's $60,000 or $50,000 for a budget to help run USS, that would be great, and keeping it pretty consistent and doing the things that we're doing. But that's just why we're over-amplifying the budget and kind of making it a little bit bigger than it might need to be. An important thing too is this money, that $98,000, if we use it, if we use it, great. If we don't use it, it's fine. It doesn't go somewhere. We can still keep, like, it'll just go in our savings or generated, and then we can just use it whenever we want. But the other $22,000 from Student Budget Board, that if we don't use it, then we have to give it back because it's from Student Budget Board. That's just kind of the rules of the way it works. That's a little weird. So for the next part, just so that I'm not boring you to tears, I did send out the budget ahead of time. Well, I guess Meredith sent it out. I'm going to go through it kind of line item by line item, but not really. And if you have any questions about it, raise your hand, let me know. If there's something weird in the budget that you're like, why is it the way that it is? You just tell me. Because we have something fun planned. So this is the start of the budget. It's kind of what it looks like. Obviously, it's a lot bigger than this, so there's a lot of slides. But here on the right side, it says generated. So that's like the Hokie Effect funds. And then on the other, and then to its right is Student Budget Board funds. So like anything that we asked for, so like specifically name tags, branded polos, that's going to show up in SBB for Student Budget Board, whereas like other things that we can't really ask for from Student Budget Board goes in our generated. But yeah, so our cabinet total is this. We're going to have a fall retreat, we're going to have a spring retreat, name tags, branded polos, and miscellaneous. The next thing is communications and marketing. Sorry, you guys can't see that very well. But, you know, pretty much run-of-the-mill stuff. Any questions? Okay. Oh. Yes. That's not a dumb question. But yes, we will have elections, which is on this slide. But yeah, you will have to rerun in the fall sometime, but I don't think we have that fleshed out. But yeah, is that correct? Right on. Okay, so the next thing is conferences. So conferences are extremely expensive. That's why we have like $14,000 towards them. And we do have some money from Student Budget Board, but they only give you $2,500 for 2 conferences, and you can only take 4 people at a maximum for either. And so we put more funding towards it, and then we're also going to do NACA, but COSGA and ASGA are the 2 that SBB is covering. Let me get out of the way. Oopsie. So the next is the Accountability Committee / elections. I kind of just put them all together. So we have like inauguration stuff, inauguration pins, which you guys should have received. Oh, question. I really don't know.
It stands for the National Association of Campus Activities.
That's it. All right. Oops. Anyways, I just know the acronyms, and I just know their conferences, and that's all I need to know. But, so, inauguration pins, which y'all should have gotten if you were inaugurated, things like that. So we have to rebuy those. Inauguration food for like the after party kind of thing. Campaign reimbursements for senators and cabinet. No, it's just cabinet. Actually, it's just cabinet. And then senator campaign materials, things like that. Banners, which is covered by, banners was like the thing that I said was like the equitable piece. We cover a banner for each of the cabinet members that are running, like a cabinet, if you're running for a cabinet position, we'll pay for like a banner. So it's like free advertising and each person gets one. What else? Elections advertising, that sort of stuff. Oh, and then we have a coffee card, but that's just for Accountability Committee. Shout out Paulo. That's just to take senators out for coffee. I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to divulge too much. My stand-up is not sitting. Okay, so the next thing is governmental relations. They obviously have a big pool because we're going to Hokie Day and ACC Advocacy Day, and those are huge things that are huge expenses, and we're covering those mostly for people. So food, tolls, parking, lodging, vehicle rentals, gas, that sort of stuff. Nothing fun there. what else? We cover VA 21. We're trying to get into that next year, so shout out. And then, yeah, the polling booths, awesome stuff. And then down here's Hokie Effect. That's their own thing. We don't need to go into that. Unless you want to. Questions? No? Okay. Yeah, skip it. So the next thing is issues and policies, so things like meeting, planning, event plan, like event stuff, so tables, chairs, microphones, etc. It doesn't matter. We're also funding forums and town halls. We want to have one for each full month in the year. So I think that's about 7. So I think we've like asked for funding for 7, so hopefully we'll get that. Oh, also to stress, the numbers on the left are guaranteed, the numbers on the right are not. Just to reiterate. Anyways, for membership development, we have banquet stuff for like end of year awards, graduation cords for senators, stoles for cabinet, or whatever we decide, name tags for senators and directors, team building events, member apparel, and then miscellaneous. The next one's fixed office expenses. That's nothing too attractive. But office supplies, we're going to do an office redo, so about $5,000 there for that. Telecommunications, that's like the Ethernet and the phone. Copier expenses, Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, our insurance policy, and then miscellaneous, whatever. All right, now the end of the budget. Is there any questions? Y'all are great. Okay, so the last thing, because I know I'm pulling teeth, special programs. So we're gonna fund a lot of outreach events and stuff like that, so that's a big expense, about $3,000. Outreach marketing, super key. Stress Less with USS, which is a super cool thing that we're gonna do, and we're actually doing it finals week as well. I'll explain this a little bit, because you guys definitely don't probably know about this, but we can all agree that there's like no studying spaces around finals. Like that's just like a common thing. So normally what student government does is they rent out Commonwealth Ballroom, like all of it, and then they put out tables and like charging ports, and then there's like coffee and things, and it's like a whole thing in Squires, and it gives people a nice place to study and also a good rep for USS. So it's Stress Less with USS. So we're doing that. We do that for the fall and the spring, and SBB covers it. So that's awesome, except for food. And then institutional appreciation. So this is normally a thing that we want to get into. I misspelled it. But providing lunch or something for a department that you guys think is awesome or did a good job. So like if you wanted to give food to cook or something like that, that's where that would go. For special programs to decide. And then just miscellaneous stuff for administration appropriations, $300 each. And then that's the whole budget in its entirety. Is there any questions? I'm sorry. Yeah. You guys vote. No, because it's our internal budget. So. Oh, do you mean the left, on the right side? Do you mean like SBB's column? Oh, so for that, it's decided by CSA. So Ari is the chair of CSA. So her like Commission on Student Affairs, they have to all vote it in. And if they're like, okay, we're voting it in, or like whatever they decide is like how they do it. But I don't want to give away too much, but like so far right now, we're slated to have all of the 22,000, but it's more so like if they have the money to fund all UCSO's budgets. And by UCSO, I mean University Chartered Student Organizations. So that's like AASU, BSA, BAC, awesome orgs, JSU. What was your name? Kyle. Any other questions? But as for the generated stuff, you guys will be voting on that in 2 weeks at the last meeting. Yeah, Monica. I don't know. Right, if you mean for this year specifically, if you're a senior, we've been sending out stuff about chords. So please contact Meredith if you haven't already or filled out her form. But for next year, that might change. Like there might be like some things saying whatever, but it's our first year, so I would assume, yes, you would get one. I don't know. That's not really up to me. I mean, it is, but it's not. I don't know. Sorry. I wish I had a better answer. I'll get back to you.
You're doing great, Sarah.
Thanks. I know this sucks, okay? I know. This is the worst part. This is why I was like, why are we here, you know? Anyways. Yeah, why are we here? Okay, but yeah, that concludes the first reading. Next time I swear it'll be a lot faster. So don't worry. If you have questions, you can come up to me afterwards, all that good stuff. I'm pretty easygoing. The budget's not fun, I would say. It's just numbers. So. Yeah, I know. Woo! Anyways, that's the end of the slideshow about the budget. Thank you for sitting. Woo! Scholarships?
Oh, goodness. Sarah's so great. Meredith went to the bathroom, so we're just going to look at this for a minute. Alrighty. Moving on. So cabinet reports are going to be sent out in an email because what we're going to do is something a little bit different when we end. We're going to end a little bit early, but you guys are not leaving. So cabinet reports will be sent out in an email. Do any directors have any reports that they'd like to share? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Cool beans. All right. There are no new university governance reports. Advisor, Juwan, Gina?
Just as a quick note, I've gone by the USS office multiple times when it's wide open and no one's in there. For instance, coming up here, which I know no one's in there because you all are here right now. So if you are the last person out of the office, can we please just kick it shut so that none of our stuff goes missing and we're respecting your space? Thank you.
Period.
Yeah, so I have sent an email. You are not the only person that's having that problem. I'm actively working on it.
Thank you, Juwan. Okay, anything else from you guys? I'm seeing nothing, so. Public forum, anybody want to say anything? You're more than welcome to. Helen, come on up. Woo, Helen!
Okay, I have two separate things. Hi, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Helen, and I'm the chair of the Accountability Committee. Quite a few of you probably got an email recently regarding attendance, and we've had some confusion about the policy. The policy for our warning emails asking if you want to have a conversation is for both excused and unexcused. So whether or not you've communicated with Meredith or your committee chair, we'd like to have conversations with people that have missed more than 2 meetings about whether or not this is going to be a priority for you this semester. It's okay if not. We understand that things come up, new organizations, I know SAA memberships just came out, stuff like that. We understand that happens, so we're just trying to open up the floor to you all, open our office hours, if you want to talk about the priority that USS is going to take in your life this semester. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, cool. If you do come up with something and you did receive an email, all of our office hours are listed in said email. And then my second thing is that I sent a message in the Slack, but I'm the chair of Student Life Council this year, and we are currently doing our recruitment process. SLC is a great way for student leaders to meet with the Vice President of Student Affairs Office and advise and consult on student affairs initiatives. We only meet twice a month for an hour and a half. And that's all that's asked of you as a member, is that you show up to those meetings and give your opinion on stuff. And so if you're interested, please let me know. Again, it's a great way to connect with students and with university admin. We have quite a few members in USS, and it's a great opportunity to grow as a leader. So if you are interested in applying, see me afterwards, and I can get your email and send you the application. Thanks.
Hey guys, my name is Mohammed Hussein. I'm the president of Muslim Student Union. What I have to say is unrelated to that. Outside of USS, I sit on the Citizens Advisory Board for the Blacksburg Police Department. And we're getting very close to finally, I don't know if you guys know, but Blacksburg Police don't have body cameras, mainly because the town of Blacksburg doesn't want to pay for it. But so they're not going to approve the budget to pay for the body cameras that they're going to vote on very soon in town council without adequate student input. And so we're having one more meeting before I leave this Friday, and we're going to solidify a Google form that we put together to actually gain like student and for town input. So me and the Dean of Students, Byron Hughes, were tasked with getting the student and like faculty input. So I just ask that when that's like solidified and we actually get the Google form, that you guys spread it out to your constituencies, because they won't pass the budget for the body cameras without like student input. And it doesn't make sense for Blacksburg Police not to have them, because Virginia Tech and Christiansburg Police already do have body cameras. That's all.
What time is your meeting Friday?
Our meeting Friday is going to be 10:30, I believe. AM. So we're just gonna have the meeting. Yeah, we're just gonna have the meeting to solidify the Google form, and then once we have that, I'll send it out to everyone so we can actually get it out.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else have anything? All right, cool.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Hi, guys. I'm Meredith O'Connor, Vice President for Administration. I am here to talk to you today about the USS Open House. And if you don't know what that is, I'm sorry, because you're missing out on a great opportunity. It's Thursday and Friday they're different times. I can send those out. I'm not going to say them because it kind of takes a lot of effort. But if you want to volunteer, and you should want to volunteer, because it's a great way to get to meet people at the university who are interested in knowing more about USS. I'll send the sign up again. You should have gotten it from your committee leaders. If you didn't, it happens. But we're specifically really lacking in representatives from issues and policy, and this is fresh out the womb, the DEI committee, so they're a little new, so I forgive them. But the DEI committee as well. If you're on those committees and you have time on Thursday and Friday, please sign up to do those, and it will be sure to be a great time. And, oh, fun thing, there'll be food for everyone who comes, like guests, volunteers, so you want to come. That's the moral of the story, is you want free food, right? Yes. Thank you. Oh, yes, and Archie, our USS unofficial mascot, will be in attendance, so that is El Supremo, #1 reason why you should be there.
You should have led with that.
Question. Oh my God, yes. I just wanted to ask, volunteering for USS events can count towards your office hours. So you can do it for 2 hours, but you still have the office hours completion time saying, I volunteer at USS Open House. That counts.
Also, the open house is in the USS office, so if you're doing your hours in the office, there's really no reason for you to not also be at the open house, because those are the same place. All right, good night.
Multitask. All right, cool. Sounds good. Last call. Anybody else? Alrighty. So we are at adjournment. So I'm going to go through the agenda again. We had the call to order, the adoption of the agenda, the adoption of previous minutes. We had Michael Dunn as our guest speaker. For no old business, for new business, we went over the budget report. Thank you, Sarah. Cabinet reports will be sent out. No director reports, no university governance reports, and Gina and Jawan will work on getting swipe access and close the door whenever you leave. Lovely public forum. So here we are. Now we're at adjournment. Is there a motion on the floor at this time? Whoever wants to say it. Cool. Yeah, that we're adjourned? Yeah? No. Yeah. Why did my brain just go dead? Okay, cool. Sounds good. We're not? Oh, yeah, no. Stay put, because we're not leaving. Yeah, Sarah, you have me. I was like, no, I think we are. Alrighty.